welcome to another episode of Game Together. I'm Joe Greener, your host, and it is another solo interview episode. My next guest is Manny Vega, the game designer most well known probably for Flamecraft. We're talking to him about that and his other most recent game, Flamecraft Duels, a two-player game of laying stones and creating patterns. I sat down with him because I want to discuss what it's like to make specifically these two games and the different mechanics that come into it, along with why he makes games like this in general, of this cozy factor. Manny Vega, welcome to Game Together. You are the game designer for Flamecraft Duels, Sparkle Kitty, and T-Witches, amongst a few other things. Thanks for coming on Game Together. Just first and foremost, what is it like to design a game that almost anyone can get now? That was the most surprising for me, is seeing a game that's on Kickstarter now become, I can get it at Walmart or Target or just about anywhere.
It's actually pretty wild. I mean, you start with the hopes that all that stuff will happen, and then the Kickstarter kind of blew all of our expectations, especially mine. So I kind of figured it would be that one big thing, and that would be great, and I could go on to make the next game. But it has legs that we could not have foreseen, and I still go to the stores, and my son will point it out every time, and he's like, "Look, it's here," and I'm like, that's amazing, no matter what.
What was the origin of designing or making a game called Flamecraft 2? What made you go, yeah, I want to make this game?
A few people have probably heard this origin story by now, but I worked with Sundara on Sparkle Kitty Knights, which was like an expansion to Sparkle Kitty, and we needed some dragons, so I had been Googling all of these cool dragons, and her name popped up the most often, so I called her, and she did some dragons for us, and that was just about it, other than I started following her on Instagram. And one day I saw this picture of a little dragon creme bruleeing something for a witch, and I immediately wrote her back and said, I have an idea for this game. And it took about 2 years for everything to come back into focus and her to have time and the game to be tested and all that, but it just snowballed from there. You can't look at that picture and not imagine the world that she had already set up. And she did a couple drawings after that as well, and we worked together to set up the lore of the different types of dragons and stuff like that. But it all came from her brain with these tiny little cat-like dragons. So
I was gonna say I fell in love seeing the dragons from the first off. I backed both Kickstarters because I was like, oh, this first game looks so cute and the concept of it looks really fun. And then I played it, I was like, okay, it's a fun game to play. It's got really good mechanics. And then I saw Flamecraft Duels. I was like, oh, there's a 2-player game now. Cool, I'll get that too. But yeah, just seeing Sundara's art is beautiful, and it's like you said, there's a full world there. And that was one of my other questions, is what is it like to have a game like this, or a series of games now, where there is this full world that you can just see on your table?
It starts to become something like overwhelming, because every time we build something, we're trying to remember the things we said before and try and make sure it fits in the world. And I'm very particular about some things, and she's very particular about others. So we work together to try and sort out what we think the world is going to be. Other than the main thing that we kind of decided early on is there's no fighting in Flamecraft. None of the dragons are gonna be angry or hurting anything or burning something that they shouldn't be burning. The whole point was that they were there and helping and wanted to be part of the village. And what happened before that, we have all these kind of stories that we want to tell, but what happens after that is everything has to be people working together and keeping the towns going. And there's a lot of cool stuff to I don't know, to look for in there, and hopefully we can hit a bunch more a bunch more things as we go.
I have to ask you about the main mechanic of what is kind of for both games, the firing of dragons. The mechanic's different, of course, in both games, but what was what made you go, yeah, we're gonna one call it firing dragons, but two, it's probably the most important ability for both games. What went into
So,
that design process?
so first of all, that it's firing up dragons.
Sorry.
We realized early on that they're working and hanging out in shops, and if we're firing them, people started being like, "But I don't want to fire the dragon," and I'm like, "It's a different verb," but so we changed it to fire up. But
Mm.
I mean, the first thing about the game, the whole idea was that you'd have these dragons in shops, and they had to use their flame abilities to use to help you and to create things. And it started off more with a player ownership of different shops. So you were trying to build your shop, but my main thought was that I didn't want one person to own anything. I wanted the village, the town to get bigger. And I don't know, the firing up mechanic was just we needed a way to say like I'm activating a dragon, and it sounds much cooler to say firing up when it means, you know, getting them excited and also using the fire. It was just, I don't know, it just seemed like the logical choice. But like I said, we did go from firing to fire up just to make sure that no one was sad about dragons getting fired from their shop.
That's fair. I never would want to fire a dragon from my own shop if possible. Um, when it comes to as well the boards for both games, you can kind of see on here for duels, it's this. I'll call it like a pseudo old style chessboard where it would flip open and all your stuff's in there. And then with Flamecraft, you have the rollout neoprene mat, which is in itself, while it's similar to traditional board games, it's different in how that's constructed. Is there something that you always want to have where it's a kind of a novel construction, or is it just kind of an ends to the mean of the design process?
For duels, I throw all credit to Cardboard Alchemy. They wanted a way to make this portable and also like just open it up and play the game and not have a bunch of pieces flying everywhere.
Mm.
Uh, their main thrust was I want to be able to play it on a plane or in a cafe. So it had to fit in all the box and not have to throw the box on the side while you're playing and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
As far as the Flamecraft board goes, it was a it was more of a square board at the beginning, and then we realized that we didn't need all the space for the shops to fit on the board because they could go on the side of the board and make it longer. And then it just happened to design itself into a long row where you're looking at a village. This is the square where everyone comes to shop. And I mean, she immediately draws something when I have some sketches and weird stuff. So Sandara immediately went in and started like doing her quick sketch, and it just, I mean, it's so beautiful to see it all green and colorful like that, that it just spawned from there. Whether it was a normal board that would have pulled it out or the neoprene, which it ended up being, that just helped, you know, sell the game for one. And again, all props to Cardboard Alchemy for making sure that every set had the neoprene mat as well, so that everyone gets that experience at least in the game.
I have to ask, in terms of duels, there is the basically two different types of scorecards. There's the three in a row, and then there's the triangle, and I know there's the four in a row as well for the fountain expansion. Was there ever the decision to try and do other shapes besides those two, the
Mhm.
straight line and that triangle shape?
Yeah, I I tried a bunch of shapes, and I also tried three different kinds of tokens. I tried having tokens on corners, just like it became a thing where it was too much for most people to process, and lines of two plus one or three of a type in a row are just they're so much easier to grok for any player, even
Mm.
someone that's very good. They can be very good at it and take forever if they're trying to look at every corner, every line, every L shape, Y shape, whatever. I I even tried putting those in like separate advanced cards, and
Mm.
even that just made the game go over an hour. And this is a 20-minute game. We want you to play three times in an hour, not one game in an hour. So it a lot of people have asked like for more stuff, and I'm a little hesitant to say that this is the kind of game where you want to spend an hour between two people really
Mm.
concentrating on every move you make, like a chess game. So
Mm.
that
That,
was kind
that's
of the idea behind it. Like I personally couldn't see the patterns as easily, so I can't imagine it would have been much easier for a lot of players.
I totally understand that. Like
Mm-hmm.
at one end of the day, I was like, oh, what if it was like a two and then one on the side, kind of like a almost like an off kiltered triangle. But I totally understand. Like through that design process, you wanted to make sure it was something people could play more than more times in an hour than maybe once in an hour. I'm someone
Exactly.
who has played this game three times in an hour with my best friend because we're like, oh, it kind of hits really nicely with the brain. Um, on top of
I
that,
had some. Oh, sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
I had a little card that was called the X-wing pattern and the Y-wing pattern, but that ran into some licensing issues, so
Mm.
we had to cut it.
I do want to
Just kidding.
ask in terms of the discs themselves, the tokens for the
Mhm.
dragons. Was there ever a process of let's go with that what its final shape is now, where it's just a flat disc, or was there ever the decision to try doing kind of a, I guess, corrugated disc where they could kind of just sit on each other nicely?
Oh, like having slots on the disc so that they can
Yeah,
line
I
up.
guess almost kind of like a checkers
Right.
checker.
Um, that I mean, I was part of the production, but not the production. That's more
Mm.
on Cardboard Alchemy. But I know that even the dual dragon shapes, because they have different colors on them on the plastic, they were super hard to produce, and it took a long time to
Mm.
get them to line up, to look right. I mean, the basic chips were easy enough, but they, I know the attempts of the tokens were many.
Mm.
So none of them, there was, we made a like a matte printing. I think that's kind of more or less what ended up the final one because it has a little more grip than the gloss. The glossy
Mm.
ones are super slippery. So, but I think that was the biggest attempt to try and keep them, you know, sticking together because they're the smooth ones just were much easier to print on. They didn't have to be perfect because you can get near the edge without having to worry too much. And I think that was the main thing. We wanted to look right, and they stand up pretty well. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're, I guess turbulence might make a problem if you were actually playing on a plane, but other than that, it's fine.
Yeah. Um, so I know there's been, I think I once saw a Facebook post or a post in general from Cardboard Alchemy saying, "Hey, we are working on more Flamecraft games." Is that something you can confirm at this time? Is there a Flamecraft 2, or is there something more expanded upon that?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's confirmed. The next Flamecraft game is titled Flamebound,
Mm.
and the little dragons that were living in the village get a little wander happy, and they start leaving the village to find new friends and meet new people, new dragons. And it's kind of it's a co-op game, and
Mm.
it's a semi legacy style in which you're going through different chapters and stuff like that. So you'll be playing co-op as the dragons this time, going out in the world, meeting new dragons and searching for the clues of where they came from, because even they don't know the past history about these elder dragons that supposedly came before them. So that's the plan.
Awesome. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. I always love a good legacy game, but I have to ask, one, how did you get into the world of game design? And I know you've done some video game design as well and
Mhm.
graphic design, but it seems like you've found this nice bread and butter with, well, with board games.
Well, definitely. It's been a long road, and I was doing video games for about 22 years. So as an art uh, designer in both fields, and the thing about video games is that there's 100 to 300 people working on a project. So it goes very slow. It takes a lot of time, and you have a small piece somewhere in the world that you're designing one level or two or three, but you're not designing the whole game. Um, well, one guy is, but mostly game designers just get to like focus on their own levels. And in that, I started just designing card games and stuff, and we would play some during lunch. And some of them started doing really well, so I started going to events and getting publishers to look at them, and that's where Sparkle Kitty got picked up. And the same person that saw Sparkle Kitty is this Peter Vaughn, the person who's running Cardboard Alchemy with Brad Brooks. And when it came down to the next game that we were talking about, like they jumped on the Flamecraft bandwagon, and the rest is history. I mean, there's a lot of things that went into making it happen, and I'm, thankful for all the luck and kind people along the way. But the best part about working on board games is that, like, I get to work on them regardless of where everyone else is at. It's great to have Sandara as like a partner, because every time I say something crazy, she ends up drawing it and making it look cool. And then we're like, okay, well, that's in because it looks cool. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of a backwards entrance into it, even though game design and video games is similar, but so different. I can change a rule because it's in my head versus having to have it reprogrammed to see if it works. So I think the speed is the main difference and the main benefit of tabletop games.
How often do you get to play games? Whether that's not necessarily games you're currently designing, but just games in general. I see you have a shelf behind you that's probably more full than my own.
Oh, that's just the one in my office. But I mean, it happened to me. I used to work in comics as a writer and an artist. And as soon as I started getting work there, I stopped being able to read comics on the daily. I got into video games because I love video games. And then I stopped being able to play anything except the one we were working on daily. But we do have meetups like about once a month with other designers, where sometimes we play other people's games or each other's games, or sometimes we just meet and we play games. And I also have some buddies around here that we get together once a month, as time permits. But uh, a lot of the games I get to play now are with my son. So they're not the heavy ones, but, we play a lot of little two-player games, or like Splendor Duels has been a favorite recently. He loves all of the Unos and all of the Sushi Goes and all of those card games as well. So the one warning from becoming a game designer is you're going to start play testing a lot of broken games, but playing a lot less finished games.
Since you've mentioned your son a couple of times, it seems like you have this relationship of one, getting to enjoy games with him, but also just the way you talked about making Flamecraft and even Duels. Do you make these games for your son?
To some degree, yeah, that is 100% true. I'd make it for people to play with their family or their significant other or their close friends that don't play games. That was kind of my whole goal. And like for Sparkle Kitty, my oldest daughter was younger when I made that game. And then she's much older now and going to college. And now I have my son he loves all things like fantastical unicorns and narwhals and dragons and stuff like that. So I think that's more because he grew up with Flamecraft than anything else. But the good news is that we get to enjoy it together. So yeah, I I like to make games that family can play together, and I'm I think I don't want to pigeonhole myself, but I just enjoy that feeling when someone tells me like they never got their kids to play until they brought out Flamecraft and they wanted to play with dragons. So
We are just about out of time, but I do want to ask one final question of
sure.
if there's something you want to tell someone who wants to get into board games or board game design even, what would you tell them?
I'd say the main thing is don't try and make Magic the Gathering first. Try and make Sushi Go first. Make a game within a scope that you could get to the finish line. And it doesn't matter if it sells a lot, it doesn't matter how many people pick it up. As long as the people are enjoying it and you get it done, it's going to get you so much more than if you spend years and years trying to make the most tactical game. And I've seen and spoken to many people who are in that world of I've been working on this for 4 or 5 years. There's just nothing that compares to getting the game out and seeing how the publishing world works. It's so much more important to know that than it is to make the biggest, perfectest game ever.
Manny Vega, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Manny for coming on and doing this interview. The rest of y'all, we'll see you next time. Bye.